Everyone, welcome to another edition of the Final Down NFL podcast with me, Jim, Denver Dave, and Punk Raider. We're here to talk about NFL, boys. How are we doing?
Good evening.
Oh, I've been better, I've been worse. Middle of the road, 5 out of 10, mediocre. Nothing more. Nothing
Not
less.
quite Broncos, but all right. Okay.
Oh no, I mean, if
First
they're
day back
bad,
at work
Jesus
as well.
Christ, I'd be on suicide watch if I was the same as the Broncos.
Guys, week 17 is done, which means one more regular season week to go. Unfortunately, you're only listening to one fan base that's still got a chance at the playoffs, but we'll try and fix that for next week. In the meantime, we're going to go through all the week 17 games, and we'd love to review 16 games, but we can only review 15. I was hoping to give you a full review of what was destined to be game of the season between the Bills and the Bengals in Cincinnati, but on the second Bengals drive, Bills' second-year safety Damar Hamlin tackled T. Higgins, stood up, then collapsed on the field. CPR was administered, and he was rushed to the nearest University of Cincinnati Medical Center. The game rightly was then postponed. Now, I've been waiting all day for an update. He's being obviously monitored. He is still alive, which is great. That is the most important thing. League came out earlier today and said that the game will not be played before the week 18 ties. So I don't know what they're doing with that, but doesn't really matter. Even just call it a draw and move on. Guys, what do you reckon? What were your thoughts?
First of all, in terms of the actual gameplay perspective, I think this sets a precedent what they're going to do now. Now, because of the situation that both of the two teams are in, if you give them a draw, you're probably not affecting their future too much. You might affect who they'll play in the playoffs, but it's not a playoffs or out situation. If this happens again, and imagine if this would have happened last year in the Raiders versus Chargers game, and the winner of that game goes through to the playoffs, I think purely from a gameplay perspective, you have to be very careful what precedent you set. Because if you just say, we'll give both teams a draw, well, if that means that both teams would go through and the Steelers would have lost out, the Steelers would quite rightly have not been very happy based on what happened last year. So it's ultimately, it doesn't matter what they choose to do, just do something and be, straight about it, and be decisive and make sure everyone's bought in, but do it and do it quickly. But from a human perspective, it's not nice to see what happened. It sort of goes back to reminding me of the Christian Eriksen thing in the Euros a few years ago. It's a particularly horrible thing to see.
Yeah, it's something we've kind of not got used to, but have seen recently in soccer games over the last sort of few years or so. You think of Marc-Vivien Foé, Fabrice Muamba, like you said, Christian Eriksen. So we're not almost desensitized to it, but we're kind of almost used to seeing it happening. This is my first recollection of something like this happening. Obviously, we've had what happened with the Steelers linebacker, whose name is escaping me right now.
Ryan Shazier.
Thank you, Shazier. And we've had a couple of other incidents where physically things have happened.
Was pretty horrific.
Concussion, you can put that in there as well. But there's, to my knowledge and to my recollection, there's never been anything quite like this within the NFL. Certainly not in the time that I can think of that we've been watching. Dave, you're absolutely right. It really makes no difference what they do with the game at all. If they never play it, if these teams only play 16 games this season, then so be it. I don't think anyone in the league would argue that whatever decision is made is the right decision. It's not about playing games at this point. It's about that young man getting healthy. It's about his family, and it's about, can the Bills organization actually get themselves together enough to carry on playing? There's a very obvious starting point for this, but it affects you. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures, but you've got the whole Buffalo team basically absolutely in tears in the middle of the field, and quite rightly so. There are going to be different people that react in different ways. Some people it won't affect them and they'll just be able to carry on as normal. Other people, this will devastate them.
Other people will be inspired by it as well. So it does absolutely work in all directions.
Yeah, and there are 52 people on on that team that will all need their individual needs to be met.
Yeah.
I suppose the question then becomes, at the end of the day, the NFL is a business. It will move on. What happens with Week 18? Should Week 18 be postponed? But can you postpone a Super Bowl? There's an awful lot of things to work through between now and, let's say, Saturday night, when I think Chiefs Raiders is going to be the first game kicked off on Week 18, that need to be worked through by the league. That it's a horrible situation. I know sometimes we can be a little bit flippant, with things like Deshaun Watson and what, Dave, you've been saying about getting him injured in his ACL and stuff. But, at the end of the day, these guys go out and are playing a game they love to play. It's a dangerous game. They know the risks. But this is not the sort of thing that you need to see. It's not the sort of thing that you want to see. I just hope that Damar Hamlin gets well. And that's pretty much all I can say about it, really.
Yeah, it wasn't a vicious hit. It wasn't a late hit. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a normal tackle. Obviously, got him in the chest, and that may have obviously added to the injury. But really, there was nothing
I mean, it was
untoward by what happened there.
It's a tackle you see 50 times a game.
Yeah. But what I was happy to see was the instant reaction of the referees and the medical staff to get onto the field to identify it wasn't, it was serious. It wasn't just another typical injury. It was something else. I agree with
you on that. With how slow sometimes the NFL have reacted to some of these things, like Tua's concussion, etc. It was good to see that, people noticed it straight away, were on it straight away, and the CPR obviously got his heart beating again on the field. That allowed them to get him to hospital. So yes.
And there were some conflicting reports about what the NFL were asking the players to, like maybe a 5-minute warm up. I don't think that actually happened.
No, it doesn't.
Everyone agreed
like
it should be postponed, and I think it made the right decision as well. Because it's very difficult to talk about games when this has happened, and no one was in the right frame of mind afterwards. And
all anyone that was either in that stadium, part of the medical teams, part of the refereeing unit, part of the on-field teams, part of the camera crew, part of the announcing crew, everyone will have been affected by this.
Even us, like waking up the next morning, I mean,
absolutely.
The first thing I did was look at my phone because, like, who won that game? Who won that game?
Always do.
There's an NFL app and it said game suspended. I was like, oh, God, it's just the NFL app being crap as usual, I'll go to somewhere else and find out. And no, it was like, no, this guy had a cardiac arrest, and then you're like, oh my God. And then you're watching stuff through the day. I've been, I've seen it. I've seen what happened. You cannot not be affected by this. This is scary, and it's something that shouldn't have to be dealt with. But
I've not seen. So I've only seen very small parts of it. So I saw the tackle and one replay, and then I've saw sort of clips of Bills players' reactions. But again, going back to the Christian Eriksen thing, seeing him literally laying on the floor with someone pounding his chest, was not something I wanted to see again. So I don't know if they showed that or not. I hope not.
ESPN weren't great at their constant replays that were going on for ages.
They were a little bit slow about it, yeah.
They could have moved to something else. They had all these other games they could have focused on, but they decided to focus on the grieving and the replays. Listen to Tom Grossi, who does the Packcast. He was doing a live watch along of the game. Listen back to that, and he was calling him out because they could have at least put like Damar's charity on the screen. He was trying to move people onto donating to his toy drive charity, and they eventually did it. I think after being hurt,
they could have put a rerun on of 2.4 Children, so they could put anything on. Just not showing. I was watching
2.4 Children.
I was watching an episode of the like Christmas special.
Early 90s.
94, I think. But no, I mean, again, going back to and I keep mentioning the Christian Eriksen thing because it was bloody horrible. But they were cutting to his family in the stands.
Yeah, and
it's kind of like, here's this guy died on the field, and here's his family, and it's like,
his family were in the stands.
That is a worldwide audience. I know it's a Euros, but it's a worldwide audience, and you expect broadcasters to learn from that because the production company who were involved in it were heavily foreigned and heavily criticised. And you kind of, I know it's cross sports and that kind of thing, but incidents like this, let's hope that they incite change. But it's no one's fault. It's just one of those things. But maybe there's a conversation that needs to be started again about safety, because there's a lot of players.
I'm not sure what you can do about that. Like I said, it wasn't a dirty
no,
hit.
No,
it
absolutely.
Wasn't late or anything. There's nothing you could have done to.
Maybe because the thing is, it was only a few years ago when players' heads were hitting the ground and they were leaving with concussions, and now that's not as much happening because of the improvements in helmet technology. Maybe there's a way in which they can do that with pads. I don't know. I've got absolutely no idea.
It's far too early for that conversation. It's not even. It's not. We're not even
starts a conversation if that's required.
Just hope that he makes a full recovery, and whatever else happens is secondary. It's a distant secondary. So, yeah, all our thoughts with Damar Hamlin and his family, and everyone that's affected by it. I know I have been. I'm sure a lot of people have as well. We're going to try and brighten up the rest of Week 17 because it was a great weekend of football. So
there was a lot
of
the
reviews
this weekend.
The stuff I wrote before the Monday night game when I was in a better mood. So we're going to start with Thursday night, and the Cowboys have gone 6-1. They're in danger of actually winning the NFC East after the Tennessee Titans decided to shut down over half of their starters for this game, deciding to focus on the Week 18 showdown with the Jags instead. Joshua Dobbs got a rare chance to play an entire game and didn't do too badly considering. His touchdown pass to Robert Woods actually had the Titans back to a 3-point deficit. But the Cowboys were always going to win this game. Tight end Dalton Schultz got his second receiving touchdown in the game to go with the Zeke rushing score in the first half to see Dallas clear. Dak Prescott did have 2 more interceptions for the season, both to Kevin Byard, but the 124 yards of penalties on the Titans certainly helped the Cowboys too. The final score on Thursday was the Cowboys 27, Titans 13.
Yes, and this wasn't close.
I would very much like to thank the Titans for resting Derrick Henry on Fantasy Super Bowl week. That was really helpful.
Yeah, I saw that. Unlucky. You won in the game that you won in the final that you were in way.
I did win it anyway, but no, that was not helpful, and that did not make my mood particularly good on Thursday when I found that out. But
he was out early though. At least it wasn't like a game time decision.
It was. Yeah, it's fine. I had time to be able to pick up Michael Carter off waivers to get me my 2 points that I needed. So but no, to the Titans. This game didn't matter. We said it last week. Losing to the Cowboys makes no difference to the Titans whatsoever. They need to concentrate on their game in Week 18 against the Jaguars. Am I surprised they shut everybody down as much as they did? Maybe, because, how injured are people? Do people really need that much of a rest? I don't know. We've seen before it doesn't always work resting players. On the flip side, maybe it is what they needed. Get them fresh, get them raring to go for that Jags game, almost spend 2 weeks preparing for the Jags and none for Dallas. But, we'll see what happens.
The Titans have now lost 6 on the bounce and they're drafting 11th overall. When I saw they rested all their players, I didn't immediately think, and this is the first time it's coming to mind when you guys are saying that they're resting everyone for the Jags game. I'm immediately thinking, okay, they're tanking because they want to replace Tannehill. That was my original thought. They're currently drafting 11th overall. If they can sort of nip into the top 10 and maybe look to try and move up, I think they're in the market for a quarterback. That was where my mind first went to.
Well, just
nothing to do with the Jags in the 3rd round. And how good does he look? We've seen.
Well, he wasn't playing this game.
So no, quite rightly, Joshua Dobbs was instead. No, but I think we've seen teams move off quarterbacks after one season. I mean, we've seen teams move off 1st round quarterbacks after 1 year. Moving off a 3rd rounder, that's easy enough. That's not a problem. I personally do think they're in the market for a quarterback, but I don't know how much of it was because if you're chasing first spot and you're behind the play, you play your first team every single game. You don't, rest the team where that Cowboys game did mean everything. Because if they win that, they're now level.
No, it doesn't matter because they've got the tiebreaker over the Jags. So if they win next week, that's it. They're in. They're 1st place.
Yeah.
How so?
What do you mean,
It's,
how
it's
so?
all about
Because they'll
division
have
and
the same
conference
record.
records, Dave.
Yeah,
so
they'll have the
the
same
tie
record,
over
and then they've got the
Jags.
tiebreaker over them. So,
But what's the
It's-
tiebreaker though? Is it the divisional record?
Yeah,
there's millions
so.
of them. It starts with divisional,
Just
then goes to
trust us,
conference,
all right?
then goes. Yeah,
Because
Don't
they lost
explain
the
all
last,
this.
but they lost the last game against the Jags.
Yeah, but it's not. No, it's not the game against the Jags. It's the division record and conference record.
it-
So however it's
Yeah.
worked out, they've deigned it that the
they will
Titans
be
winning in,
4-1 or whatever within their division. So that will trump whatever the Jags have got, which is the one win over them. So
Anyway,
the Jags, I think it works out they'll be 4-2, and the Jags will be 3-4 or whatever, or
But then-
3-3.
If they play and win that game against the Cowboys, then even if they lose against the Jag, they'll still have the same record over them, and therefore they'd have got through by
I think
definition.
it's the new one game thing.
I still don't. It still
Doesn't matter.
Trust us.
They
It's
don't
why
deserve
it's
to go through with the chicanery anyway. All right, no one should be
No, they
rooting for the
don't.
Titans with this kind of a play on a week 17. No. You don't deserve it. You've been absolute trash. Since
I said at the beginning of the season I was all in for the
Don't want
Jags,
you in
and
the
I thought
playoffs.
the Jags have finished second. They're going to win the division. I'm happy for them.
Any team that loses 6 on the bounce and is still within a shout of division title, they definitely don't deserve to be going through.
Considering that they've lost 6 on the bounce and they're 7-9. So
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
been such a
How fake-
was it 7
how
and
fake
1 they
was that
were?
record at the beginning? Yeah, something like that. Well, it was
So
So
7
everything
3
they won at the
yeah.
beginning
7-3.
were one score wins and stuff, weren't they?
Mm.
So
Mm.
it was all very nip and
Please.
tuck anyway.
I want to move on because, as we said, this game was pointless. So we're going to go Sunday afternoon. We're going to start with the Broncos and the Chiefs. I will cede this review to Dave shortly, but the Broncos decided to show some fight as soon as they let Hackett go as head coach. Only down by 3 at halftime because Harrison Butker is having an off-year kicking. The Broncos actually took the lead in the second half. A Russell Wilson passing touchdown to Albert Okwuegbunam.
Just
Easy
call
for
him
you to
Albert
say.
O.
Is it
Call him
Albert
Albert O.
Okwuegbunam?
Okay, Okwuegbunam, but say Albert O. It's
Yeah,
fine.
right. Even Albert O, even the second Wilson rushing touchdown, late couldn't quite wrestle the lead back after Kansas fought back themselves. Isaiah Pacheco, Blake Bell, and 2 for Jarrett McKinnon, who was officially listed as a running back, but is turning into a running back the way Austin Eckler's a running back. 4 yards rushing, 52 receiving. The final score was the Broncos 24, Chiefs 27.
Yeah, run them close. I think it was the Chiefs' offense against the Broncos' defense, and in key moments, they've got Mahomes. It's that simple. The fourth quarter was a real killer, where in the first 2 plays, the first play was a Mahomes touchdown, the second play was a Russell Wilson interception, and that kind of kills you when they're your 2 opening plays of the fourth quarter. But no, I think there were several suspect calls from referees, but ultimately the best team won. But we were in shouting distance with them. We're in whispering distance with them at times. That's 15 on the bounce. I think now we've lost to the Chiefs or something silly like that.
Yeah.
You're starting to sound like me blaming the refs.
No, I mean you saw you saw that pass interference that I sent you. It was absolutely horrendous. It's the worst call I've seen this week.
Pass interference
Fine.
all
It was
day
fine.
long.
You
He
put-
definitely
you
extends
pushed
his
off.
arms. He
You pushed
pushes
off.
him over. It's
It was
pass
arm fighting.
interference
You two
all day
shut
long.
up.
Gaining
behave
leverage.
yourself.
I mean, there was bad news. No sacks for Denver. No tackles for loss even.
Nope, lots of pressures though.
But good news, only 1 fumble and 1 interception for Russ. So he's improving, right?
Yep, same. I mean, Mahomes got a fumble but recovered it. Mahomes
Russ
also
didn't
threw.
recover his fumble.
No. Patrick Mahomes threw the ball. It hit the defender's helmet, came back to him. He caught it and then ran for a first down.
Yeah.
So when luck is not with you, it's not with you. It was good to see a game plan that was actually made sense, though. I mean, genuinely, the game plan was different in the way that we were doing stuff. It was nice to see. It wasn't. I mean, we scored 24 points. When can you say that about the Broncos this season? We looked competitive. That's all you can ask for. That's all you can ask for. We're playing against the best team in the AFC.
And officially more touchdowns than toilets now, Russell Wilson. So congratulations.
I genuinely don't care about that.
Not now it's completed.
It's not something I've ever paid any attention to. So
I'm sure you haven't. Next game then. And the NFC South is not a good division this year. Again. And 2 teams that were in the mix to win it were the Panthers and the Buccaneers. Carolina had won 3 of the last 4 games by grinding on the ground and playing a solid defense. That went out the window as Carolina seemed to be using Tampa's playbook instead. Sam Darnold was actually able to get over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns to Tommy Tremble, Shai Smith, and DJ Moore, who had over 100 of those yards. but they only did 74 yards on the ground. And as the game went on, Brady realized he could just moonshot it to Mike Evans, who ended with 10 catches for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. Add in a QB sneak touchdown for Brady, and the Bucs win the division. Just. Final score was the Panthers 24, Buccaneers 30.
Never any doubt the Bucs winning the division, was there?
I was
Like
really
a turret that won't
disappointed.
flourish.
I was really disappointed with the Panthers because, they created this identity. I really like Steve Wilkes. I think he's been unlucky in where he's landed. But he's given the team an identity, a real identity, and they just didn't stick to it in this game. That was it. I found that really disappointing.
Why has Mike Evans suddenly woken up? He's been asleep all season long.
You know why? I had him
happened?
I had him in fantasy, and the one game that doesn't actually matter, he then pops up and gets 10 catches for 500 yards. What a load of nonsense. Mike Evans, me and you are now enemies. That's what and I'm sure he cares about that as well. I'm going to hit him up on
He
WhatsApp.
does, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just utterly disgraceful that especially the NFC have had chance after chance after chance to put this team away, and they haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, you can blame all the other teams in the NFC, to be honest, especially the Saints and Panthers. I mean, come on, seriously.
The Rams had them dead to rights, and they just let them get the win. It's just
that NFC South, though, is the worst, most anemic, pathetic division I can remember in modern history. It's worse than the NFC least we had a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
At least they were beating each other, and it was entertaining football. This is just dross. It's utter dross.
With that, I'm not going to talk more about that game.
That's the Bucs making it all the way to the championship game. Then
we've now got to seriously look at this team as scary. Now that although they haven't got a ground game, they're still not going away in the game. Unless you're 3 touchdowns up, you're in danger of just thinking they can still come back in this. They can still come back in this. And who have they got against them? I mean, who are you going to put above them right now? The 49ers, maybe, because they're a great overall unit.
Well, in the NFC right now, I'll put everyone above them. So I think they're absolute trash, but they're just managing to win.
In the playoff game.
I think
playoff and regular seasons are very, very different.
Bucs would beat Dallas.
Playoffs.
Bucs would beat who's in the playoffs? So let's say the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants. I would fancy them to beat both the Cowboys. I fancy him to beat the Giants,
not the Cowboys. I fancy him to beat the Giants.
Eagles.
I think.
No,
I don't think they beat the Eagles.
No, I don't care.
I'm not convinced.
What, you think the Gardner Minshew can beat the Bucs?
Yep.
No, I think that the Eagles defense can beat the Bucs.
Okay. We'll get to their game.
49ers would beat them.
No trouncing.
Who are we missing? I'm missing one. That's only 5 teams.
Vikings.
Vikings.
No, who knows? Yeah, exactly. Could be a shootout. Could be 6-3.
Packers.
Suddenly, we shouldn't have to be talking about the Buccaneers, but this is the NFC's fault.
If it was anyone other than Brady, if they had Jameis Winston as their quarterback, you wouldn't even be taking another look at them.
No,
only because it was Brady.
But they do have Brady, and he's hurt us all so many times.
Not me.
It's an inexperienced, shall we say, QB draft QB section in the NFC, especially. You ain't putting many above him.
NFC, who have we got? We got Dak.
That says more about the NFC than it does. Yeah,
but he's in the NFC for a reason.
Yeah,
it's a soft path to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, from an experience point of view, you're absolutely right. But I just think there are teams in the NFC that have better coaching and better know-how.
And a more
to just seem to wilt in front of him. That's the problem.
I don't know.
Why did Carolina go from their ground and pound game to a sling it game with Sam Darnold?
Carolina in the regular season is very different to the Eagles in the off season. There's a very different experience that you're talking about there. Normally, when you say Brady in the playoffs, you think, "Oh bloody hell!" I just don't get that feeling from this team.
Strap yourself in, Dave.
Oh, you
tried warning you. I tried to warn you. Would you listen? We're going to talk about a different game. I think it needs saying again, boys, despite the win on Sunday, that New England does not have a good football team right now. Mac Jones played arguably his best game of the season, and they won by 2 points against the Dolphins team without their starting quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater was doing okay. He had Miami up in the third quarter with a touchdown pass to Raheem Mostert, but a pick six by Kyle Duggar, his third of the season, saw the Dolphins turn to third stringer Skylar Thompson. He threw a pick on his first series, but did get a late touchdown throw to Mike Gesicki to make it close. The Patriots had touchdown passes to rookie Tyquan Thornton and Jacoby Myers after Tyreek Hill had scored a rare rushing touchdown on the Dolphins' second drive of the game. Giving up 71 yards of penalties and the missed field goal in the first half didn't help the Dolphins' cause because the final score was Miami 21, New England 23.
I think the Patriots have got a decent team.
I just told you they are not a good team.
No. I just think they don't have a decent quarterback. I think a decent quarterback and a couple of
wide decent receiving core either.
No, that's what I'm saying. A couple of decent receivers and a decent quarterback. I think they're a really decent team because they've got some very, very good young players. Jonathan Jones might just be my favorite rookie back this season. And I'm throwing sauce at Gardner there, if you see what I did.
What about Tariq Woolen?
No, Jonathan Jones is, every time I see him, he just gets better and better and better.
Okay.
But he's not going to get Rookie of the Year. He is very good. He's not going to get Rookie of the Year, though, because obviously he's playing for a team who, as you say, aren't very good at the moment. But he's led by the quarterback. If they get a decent quarterback, I think they get a decent offensive play caller. They're a very different team. And Miami are Miami led by Teddy Two Gloves. This is what they are. They get beat by not very good teams. It is what it is.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help when Teddy Two Gloves ends up going out of the game for Skylar Thompson in the third quarter or whatever it was. You know, it's not ideal for Miami, and their playoff hopes are now still within their own hands, but they need to pull something out of the bag this week. Because it doesn't look like Tua's going to be fit to play. So
we'll see. He's not. Tua's not playing this weekend. No.
Exactly.
What's the Tua situation for the playoffs? Do we know, or is it still fluid?
He may be in. He may be out.
Okay.
He may be
chances are they're not making
it.
Chances are they're not making it at this rate. And if they do, I think it's. I would not be too happy if they put Tua back in because you just don't know what's going to happen. They're not protecting him enough on. He just seems to have a magnet in his helmet to the grass. It's crazy the amount of times he falls over and he doesn't use his hands. He just seems to use his head. I don't know.
There's been quite a few times though when he got a massive linebacker clinging onto him, preventing.
The alligator roll him. It's just it always seems to happen though.
There was one of those in the Broncos game as well when and this isn't a Broncos thing. This is a quarterback thing. If you've got a linebacker who's literally picking you up and slamming you to the ground, that should be called. And that player should be either suspended for that series or given a warning out of the game because it happened on a couple of occasions. One of them was horrendous, and there was two referees standing right there, and nothing happened. So again, not a Broncos thing, just a human don't kill him kind of a thing, because it's not really on, to be honest.
Next game. And the Eagles lost last week to the Cowboys, but they were playing the Aints at home. Surely this would be a win with or without Jalen Hurts, right? Well, this was about as frustrating a day as an Eagles fan have experienced in a while. The Saints scored on their opening drive with a touchdown run for Taysom Hill. The Eagles' entire first half consisted of 3 and outs until the defense managed to pick Andy Dalton with 34 seconds left in the half, and Philly did get a first down. Second half and a field goal on the opening drive, then the 78-yard A.J. Brown catch and run had the Eagles within 3 of the Saints. But the pick six of Minshew by Marshawn Lattimore, just back from injury, killed any chance of a comeback. Saints edge rusher Cam Jordan had 3 sacks on the day as New Orleans play party wrecker. Final score was the Saints 20, Eagles 10.
I think what was interesting in this game is how much they missed Jalen Hurts' feet, how much they missed his run game. Because in the total game, they had 67 rushing yards, which for the Eagles, we're used to seeing that in the first quarter. So either they adapt Gardner Minshew's game and get him, not so he's throwing the ball 32 times, but, reduce that number significantly and get him a little bit more mobile.
How many carries did Miles Sanders have? Do we know?
Not 12. Many.
Not enough.
No.
If you haven't got Jalen Hurts in there, then that's not enough touches for your running back.
The entire rushing game was Miles Sanders with 12 attempts, Boston Scott with 2 attempts, and then Gardner Minshew had 1 attempt, but it was 0 yards. Not enough running attempts.
It was a 4th down attempt. He's got pushed back.
Yep.
So they did not respect Gardner Minshew running the ball. and I think they were just expecting him to hand it off. So they stacked the box, and then they weren't really getting the yardage. If you have Jalen there, they have to back off slightly. They have to be spying him. They have to be, a bit more spread out. He has got a deep ball. They just didn't respect Gardner Minshew at all, and it showed. They just kept getting through. Like I said, Cam Jordan 3 sacks. He ain't had 3 sacks in a long time, and he's a very good pass rusher. They just like I said, no first downs until the very end of the first half. Says a lot. I mean, they're used to picking up first downs because, third down conversions, because Jalen Hurts can get them that yardage.
One thing we're not doing here is giving the Saints any credit at all. And to be fair, during this game, they were playing for their playoff lives. No, they might be terrible, but they obviously played quite well. Especially defensively, they pretty much shut down the running game, as you've already said. They weren't allowing deep passes. They weren't allowing any passes really. So the Saints, we've got to give a bit of credit to the Saints to go into Philly with Philly still playing to secure that number 1 seed, which they haven't yet done. They've had 3 chances now. So what it has done though is this game has now allowed us to kind of have a bit more of a interesting, will it be Dallas, will it be Philly, will it be the 49ers conversation, so around that number 1 seed. So thank you to the Saints for that, and sorry, but you're out of the playoffs.
They were out before that game anyway. They were out.
But if you look at the Eagles games though, the Eagles the Eagles passed the ball 32 times and they ran the ball 15 times.
Yeah, it's the wrong way around.
That's the wrong mix. The Saints, they threw the ball only 24 times and they ran it 35 times. That's the right mix. If I gave you those 2 numbers, you'd have thought it would have been the other way around.
Yeah.
So the Saints controlled the clock. The Saints controlled. I mean, they controlled the game fully. And time in possession is a big thing in the NFL. And the stat I think I saw at the end of the first quarter was that the Eagles had a 3 and out, and that was it. They didn't. There was almost no time in possession play. But there you go. I mean, as you say, Saints did the job that they needed to.
Keeps it interesting for Week 18 for the Eagles, though.
Yep.
Okay. Another NFC East team shooting themselves in the foot was the Washington Commanders, at home to the Browns with a chance to still get in the playoffs. They went back to Carson Wentz's QB1. Wentz repaid their favor by throwing 5 touchdowns of over 400 yards of only joking. He was absolute dog. 2 interceptions in the first half, another in the second, and 143 total passing yards. The only saving grace was that a quarterback sneak touchdown just before half-time actually gave the Commanders the lead at the break. Some have already started saying that Deshaun had a good game. The stats showed he scored 3 touchdowns on just 9 passes, but he only completed 50% of his total throws. And the Amari Cooper touchdowns are all Amari for the credit, especially the first one that was just a simple out route that the defender whiffed on. He ended the game with 169 yards passing and a QBR of 32.1, lower than Wentz. Donovan Peoples-Jones had the other Cleveland touchdown as the Commanders joined the Browns in being eliminated from playoff contention. The final score was Cleveland 24, Washington 10.
I can give my quick view on this very quickly. Deshaun Watson still doesn't pass the eye test. Carson Wentz is absolute garbage. There was a point when he threw an interception. The next game it cut to was the Broncos game where Russell Wilson did something good for a change, and I thought it could be a lot worse. It could have Carson Wentz. And the third thing is I'm glad to see the Browns are not going through to the playoffs.
Oh, that's 3 things, and it wasn't particularly quick, but it's really simple. In a must-win game, why are you playing Carson Wentz? That's it. It says everything you need to know.
Ride or die.
Yeah.
Are they in for cap on Carson Wentz? Do we know?
They took on a contract, didn't they? From Indianapolis.
They did, but I don't. I
They
can't.
the cap,
it was only a 2-year or 3-year contract though, or something. It wasn't massive.
They just took on what was already agreed with Indianapolis.
Yeah, exactly. I think they just lifted the contract and took it, and he's now at max, got 1 year left on it. So
they can move off him. Whatever it is, they can move off him. It's fine.
Having a quick look now. So it looks as though he's got 2 more years after this season. The cap number is 26 million next year, 27 million the year after, all of which is dead money. So to move off him is over 2 years. It's going to look to be around about 50 million.
They can finesse that, right?
Number. They're going to have to. They're going to have to. Most of it is in basic salary rather than roster bonuses. So expect him to sign a new deal and then get cut. That's what I would expect to see.
That can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. He cost me
Big
my
numbers,
fantasy Super Bowl championship game.
Well, more fool you. That's what I
Well,
say.
I was playing Commander Paul, so I had Jalen Hurts was benched. I was like,
you
okay,
dangle the
as well.
fact that his own quarterback was
Exactly.
yeah.
Do you know what? I give you a lot of stick sometimes.
I love the
Jim,
pettiness. I love the pettiness.
For that. If you can kill him with his own quarterback,
that's what I was hoping
for that.
Yeah. Didn't work, but if it had, I was just like, oh, it could have pulled it off. He could have had a good game.
It's nice for Paul to see his team win something. I mean,
not his actual team, but his fantasy team did win. So congratulations, Paul, on winning our league.
Being a Washington fan and a Dundee United fan, he's probably not used to success.
We're going to move on.
Just one very quick correction. Turns out I'm a bit of a spanner. The 26 million and 27 million is actually cap savings, not dead money. So there's almost no dead money on Wentz.
Oh, heave ho! Away you go.
So they can literally wipe the slate. All of his guaranteed money is in this season. Nothing guaranteed next year.
Mm-hmm.
They can move off him for completely free, absolutely nothing. So he will not be with whatever they're going to be called next season, the Washington Otters or whatever.
Don't do it. Right, so next game, and the Giants beat the Colts. Not surprising, but this does guarantee the Giants a playoff spot for the first time since 2016, which is surprising. Last year, they only won 4 games, which led to Joe Judge getting the heave-ho. Brian Daboll has done a pretty incredible job with what he's been given. Saquon in particular has been revitalized in this offense. But on Sunday, Daniel Jones was the one stealing all the stats. Touchdown passes to Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins, as well as 2 rushing touchdowns for him, saw an easy home victory sealed. Nick Foles went out injured in the first half. Sam Ehlinger got a touchdown pass to Michael Pittman late on, but the final score was the Colts 10, Giants 38.
I worry for the Giants.
Oh, yeah?
This year was supposed to be the make it or break it for Daniel Jones. And he's done enough to probably come back next year, but not enough to prove that he's the one. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be difficult for the Giants to move off him because they're going to get him in. He's going to get them into the playoffs, and they're in that Phillip Rivers, Chargers thing of him not being good enough to get rid of him, being too good to not to get rid of, but too bad to keep. And it's
easy
really
for you to
tricky.
say, Dave, but there's 2 words to answer this question.
Go for it.
Franchise tag.
Okay.
Tag him. They'll tag him.
I mean, they can tag him, but
they'll have to tag him.
I think it'd be easier if he's at the end of his contract. Is it the end of his 5-year now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think it'd then be easier to go into the contract negotiations, offer him what you want to offer him say no, and then go, okay, we have to walk away then.
He's just got you to the playoffs.
Exactly.
It's going to be difficult.
He's just played his best game as a Giant. So
that's the first time since 2016 of being
to get rid of him.
You're going to can him.
Yes.
Well, you're very brave.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm not very brave. I've seen what he's done for 5 years now. Jim, would you keep him if he was the Steelers quarterback? Would you keep him? Exactly, 100%. There you go. Then I'm right, and the whole negotiation gives you an excuse to get rid of him. I mean, as we've already discussed, Carson Wentz is on the market. Carson Wentz in New York would be amazing.
Dave, it's not what you know; it's what you can prove. Okay, and you can't prove that you can get away with canning a playoff quarterback. For better or worse, you're going to have to
control the narrative. You can control the narrative. Is he? No, is he? Are we sure he's in his last season? Because have they not got the 5th-year option?
This was the 5th-year option.
Was it really? Is that really 5 years? Poor blimey. I'd make an excuse then of saying, look, he was asking for too much money. I'd leak the narrative next week. Yeah, and tell me.
No, I'd make the excuse of at the end of the day, the Giants are in the playoffs. Well done to them. They weren't supposed to be there. The odds are they'll get knocked out almost immediately.
Very swiftly.
But fair play. They've done well.
Well, thank you very much, Punk, for shooting down that conversation. So we better move on.
Well,
this is his 4th year. This is only his 4th year.
They've declined his 5th-year option. It's already gone as an option.
Right.
He's
okay, I'm
in
with
the
you
same
now.
boat as Josh Jacobs.
Yes.
Interesting.
Right, next game. With the Titans loss on Thursday, the Jaguars moved into first place in the AFC South after taking apart the Houston Texans on Sunday. This one was mostly done on the ground with rushing touchdowns for Travis Etienne, Jermichael Hasty, and a first NFL score for rookie Snoop Connor. There was also a fumble recovery touchdown for Tyson Campbell, as the Texans needed to keep up their losing tally to avoid missing out on the #1 pick in April. The final score was the Jaguars 31, Texans 3.
The only thing I've got to say about that game is Snoop Connor. What a name.
Yeah.
That's all I've got to say. Nothing else.
6th round pick, I think. 5th or 6th round pick for the Jags this year. So nice to see him getting some appreciation there. And look good for the Texans. They need to lose.
It's a
and they need
nothing
to
game.
lose this weekend as well. It's not for the
Didn't
Texans. They
matter.
don't have #1 pick. Bryce Young did declare just a couple of days ago for the draft. So there you go.
Shock horror.
Yeah.
Next game, the NFC North matchup, and the Lions swept the Bears for the first time since 2017. The Bears did all their scoring early with a Fields pass to Cole Kmet on the opening drive, then the Cairo Santos 23-yard field goal. But that was all the Bears fans were getting in this game, as Jared Goff had 2 passing scores to Brooke Wright and 1 to DeAndre Swift, who also got 1 on the ground. Jamal Williams ticked over his season tally to 15 touchdowns. Just in case Punk missed it, shout out to Aiden Hutchinson, who got the interception, despite being known as a premier edge rusher. That's his 3rd of the season.
Spoiler alert.
Final score was the Bears 10, Lions 41.
Bit one-sided, this really, wasn't it?
Wasn't at the start.
Yeah.
Like I said, after 10 points, the Bears shut up.
It never is
in
at
scoring.
14:55 in the first quarter, no.
I mean, the Lions are either absolute dross or pure brilliance on offense, aren't they? There's nothing in
Yeah.
between.
No.
To be fair, they've been pure brilliance in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So
Do you know who went
they've
missing,
gone
though?
through these phases, haven't they? They started off poorly, then went really good, then just completely dried up, and now seem to have
No,
gone
they
good
started
again.
off brilliant for like 2 games and then died for about a fortnight. Well, for about more than that, probably about a month. And then
They've won
now they've
7
got
of the last
regeneration.
9 games. After starting
Yeah.
1 and 6.
Yeah, on offense, though, they started really, really well, but they were conceding 1 million points. Unfortunately, we didn't see the resurrection of Jamal Agnew's game, though. So everyone else got a touchdown apart from Jamal Agnew, though. So
Right?
just saying from my touchdown selection last week.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a great week for either of us, but especially for me. Yeah. There's nothing else to say about this game apart from the Lions now have it in their control to
I'm
to
really
get to the
looking
playoffs.
forward. I'm really looking forward to watching the Lions in the playoffs because for so many times, you know, we've not seen a postseason with the Lions in, and obviously I've got a soft spot for the Lions. So
Got to get there first.
yeah, it's in their hands though. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
And obviously I've placed a bet. Anyone who doesn't know, I've placed a bet on the Giants to win the Super Bowl. That was
I
purely
did ask, can you
because-
cash that pound out?
Yes, I can. I'm
I'd
not
cash
going
it out,
to.
mate. I think if you've played around with this for too long, you know, it's time to bring that money home.
I put it on about 2 days ago.
Paying
No,
fast
the reason
and
I
loose
put
with
it
this
on
money.
is
So
my wife's a
what
Giants
happens
fan.
then if you end up with a Lions-Giants NFC Championship game?
Oh, I want the Lions to win.
Oh,
want the
so you'll
Lions to win.
forgo your pound for
Oh, 100%.
the Lions.
Absolutely. I think I got 80 to 1, by the way, in case anyone's wondering. And I think
Not enough.
that's not that even for me, that wasn't generous enough. But, you know, the other half's a Giants fan, and she said, put a bet on the Giants. I was like, oh, okay, if I have to. There's more chance of Clemson winning the Super Bowl, to be perfectly honest, but there you go.
Yeah.
But no, it'll be nice to watch the Lions in a postseason as long as they can get it, as long as they can get there.
Well, we'll see. We'll soon see. Last game of the Sunday afternoon was the Falcons and the Cardinals. These 2 teams are eliminated. So even a 1-point game isn't going to derail this podcast too much, especially when it's Desmond Ridder against David Blau. So Arizona got a touchdown catch from Trey McBride off a Ridder fumble. Atlanta got rushing touchdowns from Tyler Algier, and a Cordero Patterson one from a blocked punt. And the kickers did the rest. Oh, and JJ Watt got a sack. Final score was the Cardinals 19, Falcons 20.
A word has not yet been invented that can accurately describe how little I care about this game.
No. With that, then, we'll move on to Sunday evening slate, and we're going to start with the 49ers and the Raiders. How about that? So, Derek who? Raider Nation were quickly cheering a new star in Jarrett slanging it Stidham in the Battle of the Bay, as Vegas managed to do something that almost no team has done all season, and that was gash the Niners defense on the ground and in the air. Josh Jacobs had 69 yards and a touchdown on the ground, which doesn't sound like a lot, but against this D'Amico Ryans defense is. And Davante Adams looks like he has now got a new best friend as he caught 7 of 11 for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. Darren Waller also broke 100 receiving yards and a touchdown. But San Fran had won the last 8 games in a row and they weren't going to go quietly. Brock Purdy continues to play clutch, only failing to see the Niners score on 3 drives, and one of those was a last-second Robbie Gould field goal miss. The Niners had touchdowns from George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, who had over 100 yards receiving. Rushing scores from undrafted rookie Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey had 193 scrimmage yards. The field goal missed by Gould took the game to overtime. A deep shot from Stidham was picked by Tashawn Gibson, who ran the ball all the way back to the Las Vegas 7-yard line. 2 plays later, and Gould was making the game-winning kick. Final score after overtime was the 49ers 37, Las Vegas Raiders 34.
Who would have thought that a quarterback in 2023 that had mobility as well as pocket awareness could make a decent offense become decent? Unbelievable.
Who are we talking about?
Look, well, we're talking about Mr. Stidham because Jarrett Stidham scored the first touchdown on a rollout, or first moving touchdown for the Raiders this entire season. With his rollout to Adams for 60 yards when he got in behind the defense. Look,
yeah, but that says more about Derek Carr than it does Jarrett Stidham, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. But it also just goes to point out that, it's say what?
He didn't invent fire. It's just, it's just a rollout pass,
Yeah, exactly. But it's the first one we've had this season.
Yeah. It's the first time you Raiders fans have seen fire.
What,
I know. Yeah.
Behave. It's the first time. Oh, look.
Go on. You're doing well.
For a long time. No. For a long time, Punk has seen nothing but Derek Carr. He's seen nothing but Derek Carr.
I know.
And now it's like he's been taught to fish. It's that thing of
give breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Exactly. Give a man a fish. No, I one thing I want to say, and I'll bow back out of this because it's obviously.
I don't want you to say anything in the minute because I'm going to finish what I'm going to say.
Please.
So, the most obvious section of allowing a running quarterback in this game was on one particular play where Bosa came in and had a free shot at Stidham. I think it was about halfway through the third quarter, and actually paused and reconsidered whether or not he should actually go through with the tackle because Stidham had been able to run. Now, if that's Derek Carr, Bosa just basically levels him and the Raiders are off the field again because it was on a third down. But, it just pains me as to, is it the coaching that is telling Carr to sit in the pocket? Is it Carr just sitting in the pocket and having no pocket awareness? I don't know what it is, but it's not working. So, I think Carr would be fantastic in New York, whether it be for the Jets or the Giants. I think he would look good in green. He would look good in blue. Certainly, there's a few teams that I think could come in for him. Commanders. Davante Adams, with those 14 receiving touchdowns he now has this season, is actually the third Raider receiver to have that many in one season.
So he outdid Tim
and
Brown.
The last, no, that's
he did the single season record.
That's the yards. The touchdowns, the last Raider to get 14 touchdowns in a season receiving. Any guesses?
Jerry Rice?
You got no chance. Warren Wells in 1969.
I have no chance.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
I'll hold my hands up. I had no chance. So, unbelievable, Jeff. Because I did the same as you. I was like, hang on, surely Jerry Rice, surely Tim Brown, surely. No, none of them got to 14. I just really enjoyed this game. It was one of those really nuts games where, all right, we had this weird outside chance of still making the playoffs, but it was never realistically going to happen. So it was one of those that you could just watch and just enjoy the game. I mean, I was absolutely expecting a thumping. So it was just very enjoyable to see an offense moving freely, a defense that looked improved. I mean, there's not a very high bar set for improvement with the Raiders this season, but there were a few high spots there. It was all right. It wasn't too bad. I just thought Stidham was a little bit unlucky, really, with throwing his interceptions when he did. If he'd managed to keep one of those out, and I really didn't understand the play call in overtime where he's trying to bomb it down the field, when actually all we needed to do was keep moving the chains. So, yeah, still not convinced by the coaching and some of the play calling, but yeah, it was an entertaining game, and that's what you like to see at the end of a season when you got nothing left to play for, and you can still get a top 10 pick in the draft. So,
I also like to see there, Dave, is there's a glint in Punk's eye. Not seen that since week 6.
As I said, week 6 of the 2017 season.
I hope they kill you.
Have you watched the Raiders this season? Have you watched the Raiders this season? Dear me, it's been almost as painful as Broncos.
No, it hasn't. Don't be stupid.
It was nice watching you actually live tweeted that game, and it's not often you live tweet a game, Punk, because I know you're kind of tapped out for this season, but
no,
it was nice.
Normally,
to see that
normally when he live tweets the game, it's full of expletives.
There were still some of those.
Well, yeah, there is that. It's never safe for work, but
no.
I live tweet. Normally, I'm so invested in the game that I'm just watching it, and I forget to pick up my phone and do Twitter and all the rest of it. But when the pressure's off and we're not worrying about it and we're just enjoying the game, it's very easy to sit there with, a load of beers in you and just enjoy tweeting the game. But yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to say, and it's
done. Chiefs next, so that's it for us. Season over.
The one thing I wanted to say is that normally with the Raiders, you get two things. You get a quarterback dropping back in the pocket and passing, or you get a ground and pound run game. That's it. This was the first time in quite a long time there's been variation of play. And it's strange to see a Raiders team do that. And that's literally all I've got to say. Defense is still obviously a concern because there was big chunk yards being given up. But on offense, the way the Raiders,
the way the Raiders played in that game against the 49ers was the way they were supposed to have been playing all season long. And it just, for one reason or another, hasn't happened. I agree, the defense has to be completely retooled. There's only really, realistically, I think maybe 3 players that you keep, 4 possibly. But, that can happen in this off-season now. I think there's 4 starters that you can rely on to keep in that Raiders defense. The rest you can get rid of. Crosby, Perryman, Morig, and say Harmon as well, but
let's move on. You're eliminated. We're not interested in the Raiders right now.
It's fine.
Let's
move
on to another team, shall we?
On.
If the Vikings want people to take them seriously with a 12-win record, then they have to slay the albatross around their necks that is the Green Bay Packers. For what seems like forever, the Packers have had a stranglehold on this division, and it showed again this Sunday evening as Stockholm Syndrome sets in and the Vikings crumpled. It wasn't even like the Packers were particularly good. Aaron Rodgers didn't get anywhere near 200 yards passing. There was only 1 receiving touchdown to tight end Robert Tonyan. Green Bay had a punt blocked and a turnover on downs in the first half. Where the offense was vanilla, the defense and special teams were taking everything the Vikings would give them. Keyshawn Nixon started things off with a 105-yard kickoff return following the Vikings' first points of the game. Darnell Savage had a 75-yard pick 6 of Kirk Cousins. Cousins will be picked another 2 times, trying to force throws to Justin Jefferson. In the second half, there were rushing touchdowns for Packers' A.J. Dillon and a scramble from Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings had garbage time scores for Jalen Naylor and KJ Osborne, but this could kill any playoff winning hopes of Vikings fans. The final score was the Vikings 17, Packers 41.
You know the key to this game? It was I can't remember the back's name for the Packers. It was him against Justin Jefferson. No, Alexander. No. The cornerback.
Jaire Alexander.
Jaire Alexander. Yeah, it was him against Justin Jefferson. No, I said the back, and I meant the cornerback.
The cornerback, right?
Pipe down. It was Alexander against Jefferson, and Alexander won the game. It was consistent. He went everywhere Jefferson went, and there's a couple of shots and a couple of highlight reels of Jefferson laying on the floor while Alexander was over the top of him, obviously taunting and not getting called for it because why would you?
He said before the game he was going to do it as well. He called out Jefferson.
I've always have been a massive Jaire Alexander fan. And he's proven in this game just how good he is because he shut down one of, if not the premier wide receiver. It doesn't help with the Vikings that, Kirk Cousins had a Kirk Cousins game. Simple as that.
It's just so frustrating. Frustrating because they're better than this and they just lay these eggs sometimes. That 14 points isn't really deserved. Like I said, it's garbage time.
It's also the chance to kick the Packers out the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now, very much like the Buccaneers, they've got every chance. I mean, they basically, it's them against the Lions this week, winning in. Whichever team gets, wins the game. It's in Lambeau, so who knows what will happen. But again, you can't just let these quarterbacks into the playoffs. They're too good. They've got too much know-how into how to win individual games. So
Rodgers has been terrible all season. This wasn't even like a free touchdown game to Mike Evans. This was
balance in that team now.
Like 160 odd yards. He's not hitting. He's not getting the yardage anymore. He's just not doing it.
No, but the running game's working.
Yeah, but this defense especially is what scored the points for them. You look at the offense. The stats on even on the ground. How
many times have we said in the playoffs you must have a run game and you must have a defense?
Nice.
And what have the Packers got now? They've got a run game and a defense. So it does annoy me that let's call them the new breed of playoff teams are not killing off the old quarterbacks. They're just letting them hang around, and who knows what happens at the end.
Yeah, well, we've got 3 games left, so let's do the Jets and the Seahawks, 2 teams that were vying for a playoff spot, which seemed extremely unlikely before the season started for both of them. Seattle came out swinging and had the game locked down by half-time. A touchdown on the opening drive after a 60-yard run by Kenneth Walker III, finished with a touchdown pass to Colby Parkinson. Mike White threw a pick to Quandre Diggs on the Jets' opening drive, and that was a gut punch. The Seahawks got another touchdown before half-time with a pass to Tyler Mabry. Yeah, me neither. White would turn the ball over again with a fumble brought on by one of Darrell Taylor's 2.5 sacks. The second half, and no touchdowns, but one more interception for Mike White. A bad and dangerous pick by Mike Jackson that left the Jets' elimination in black and white. And Mike White looking at that man in the mirror, etc., etc. Final score was the Jets 6, Seahawks 23.
I swear to God, you just make names up now. There's about 5 names now I've never heard of. I've got nothing to say on this game. 2 teams that aren't in the playoffs. Although Seattle can still make it, can they?
Yes, they both were in contention before this game.
Yeah, 2 teams that aren't gonna go very far in the playoffs. I don't care.
Rude. You don't know that.
Yeah,
I like the Seahawks.
That's MVP Gino that you're talking about.
Behave. Pipe down, will you? You two, honestly. I swear to God.
They're still alive. They're still alive.
Yeah.
Well done, Seattle.
They're already dead. Let him sleep.
Okay, let's do the Rams and the Chargers. Not going to spend long on this one as well because one's already in the playoffs and the Rams are already done. Austin Eckler once again smashed it for the Chargers, getting their first 2 touchdowns on the ground, including a 72-yard burst through the line on his second score. The Rams got 1 touchdown on the ground themselves with Malcolm Brown, but after halftime, the Chargers got passing scores with a Justin Herbert rope pass to Gerald Everett and one to Donald Parham as the Rams seized up. The final score was the Rams 10, Chargers 31.
Don't care.
No, I don't care either.
To be fair, the Chargers, did what the Chargers do, and the Rams did what the Rams do. So it wasn't anything particularly surprising in this game. What do you want to say about it? The Chargers have pretty much set themselves up for their playoffs. They can rest players this week if they want to. I don't think their position is going to change. Their ceiling is going to change. So,
they're not locked in their
see
ceiling,
how they get on.
Yeah.
No, all of the TV coverage that we saw from this game was panning to the crowd, and there was like a Chargers
Raider fans in there.
There was, there were, Joe. Genuinely,
there were Raider fans.
There was.
Yeah.
It clipped at one point, and there was a guy wearing a Manchester United shirt. There's a good chance there were more Manchester United shirts in that crowd than there were San Diego Chargers or wherever they're playing this week. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
Let's move on. We've got one more game, and that's the Sunday night game, and was a typical Steelers versus Ravens game. Down in the trenches, low scoring but tense. The only touchdown in the first half came after a rare penalty against Cam Hayward, turned a 4th down and a field goal kick into a 1st and goal with under a minute left in the half. Tyler Huntley found Isaiah Likely in the end zone to give the Ravens a 7-point lead. The Ravens were getting lots of success with throwing the ball to tight end Mark Andrews. He ended the game with 100 of Huntley's 130 passing yards and 6 first down conversions. But in the second half, the Steelers started to claw their way back with a couple of field goals, teeing up the final 11-play drive with some clutch plays by the Steelers offense, leading to a Pickett scramble and throw to Najee Harris into the end zone, giving the Steelers the lead. Huntley had no timeouts and less than a minute to go to get field goal range, but a deep shot was picked by Minkah Fitzpatrick, and the Steelers are back to 500 with a chance to make the playoffs. Final score, was the Steelers 16, Ravens 13.
This was like watching two ugly birds kiss when they both got giant tongues. You just don't want to watch it. You just got no interest in this game, have you?
So, in order for the Steelers to make the playoffs, both the Patriots and the Dolphins have to lose.
Yes.
Do you expect that to happen, James?
Go on, the Patriots.
I think it might.
You think it might?
I think, well, the Patriots are going to lose. Patriots lose to the Bills, and there's no reason to think the Jets can't pull one off against the Dolphins. Dolphins have got Teddy Two Gloves, like we said, you know.
Steelers in the playoffs.
Thompson.
So
Steelers in the playoffs. You heard it here first. What? Do you know what I really
make
want?
the Steelers this year's Eagles, in which
I
they
hope
get to
it
the
kills
playoffs and get caught completely in the headlights.
Guys, do you know what I want? What I really, really want is for us to beat the Browns,
Spice Girls.
so we have a winning record, but not to get into the playoffs. I don't want the playoffs this year. I just want to have a winning record and to leave it at that. To say thank you very much. Okay, let the Dolphins or someone get smashed in the first round. Let's just go with a winning record and we'll move on to next year where we'll be better than we were this year. That's what I would like.
I would like you to have a losing record just once. Just once. I mean, it happens to the Broncos every year. I'd like you to just have it just once.
For the first time since week 3, we are back to a 500 record. So, or a non-losing record. Thank you. Now we've won 5 out of the last 6 games in Baltimore as well, and very happy to say that. So those are the games.
I was going to say, it's definitely the defense that have got you there, because there's only 3 teams in the AFC that have scored fewer points than you.
And we have a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
It's not.
But you've got a good round.
And he hasn't played every game as well. We started with Mitch Trubisky.
Please don't take that as a criticism. It's not.
All right,
what I'm saying is No. What I'm saying. No, absolutely not. What I'm saying is there's only 3 teams in the AFC who scored fewer points than you, and you're still in the hunt for playoffs. That is a massive credit to your defense. That is not a criticism to your defense at all, or to your team at all in any way. No scorn was meant by that in any way.
Okay.
Stop apologising. Jesus.
I'm just saying.
You know you're rubbish. I think this far.
I think that is
just jealousy is a cruel mistress.
Massive. I think that's a massive compliment to pay when you're that bad on offense to still be in the hunt for a playoffs.
You're supposed to be black and
silver,
but
the Ravens do every season.
I didn't. You were both talking at the same time. I didn't get what you said there. But I mean, I'm sure it was great.
That was the week 17 games. Punk, I want some power plays from you, sir.
Power plays. We've got a few actually. Some in the games that we skipped over as well. So. Marshawn Lattimore's, you mentioned earlier, his pick 6 put the Saints up by 2 scores versus the Eagles when they were still alive in the division race at that point. Yep. He read the quick slant and reacts quicker than the receiver to the ball, running in from about 20 yards. Excellent ball skills and defensive back skills. People could learn from him. Your man's back. Kenneth Walker the third 60-yard run on the first defensive play of the game. Rookie running back took 1 cut and then just disappeared upfield to set the tone early for the Seahawks, and they never really looked back. Here's one that we really should have mentioned in the reviews there. Probably Sean Nixon's 105-yard kick return.
I did
right
mention
down the middle. Did you? I must have shut my ears off because I'm watching the Darts and Everton get battered at the same time. So Sean Nixon's 105-yard kick return right down the middle. He absolutely went untouched, which is ridiculous coverage from the Vikings. But it was after Green Bay had gifted the Vikings the first points of the game after their special teams snafu. So getting themselves back on top straight away is exactly what they needed. Devontae Adams. Oh, hello, Devontae Adams. His toe-tapping fade TD catch right before the half. The coverage is almost perfect from Charvarius Ward, but Stidham aims the ball for the far pylon. Adams reaches out left-handed, takes the ball, toe taps in for the TD. And then we have a second Devontae Adams play in here, which is his 45-yard Superman catch on 1st and 20, 34-27 down, 1:53 remaining. Stidham launches the ball down the sideline where Adams is running with Diomordor Lenoir. Easy for you to say. Adams realizes that the ball isn't going to get to him, so adjusts his run inside and makes a diving one-handed grab to put the Raiders in position to score the game-tying touchdown. We alluded to it earlier in the spoiler section. Aiden Hutchinson's interception just before half times. This was amazing because the Lions did not send a single pass rusher on Aiden Hutchinson's interception as it closed out the first half. Hutchinson just decided, or by design, was loitering on the sideline, closed the gap between him and the receiver to jump the route and keep the Lions' 14-point lead going into half time. Mike Williams, he had another couple of one-handers, but I've only picked one this time. Mike Williams is one-hander in the 1st and 10 with 90 seconds left in the half. Herbert looks left towards him on the sideline, slightly overthrows it. Instead of giving it up and just letting the ball go out of play, Williams stutter step, spins 180 and throws his right hand up to bring the catch in to put the Chargers within field goal range. Late in the third quarter of the Pats versus Dolphins, Kyle Douglas was at it again with a 39-yard pick six. It was the 3rd and 15, and he stepped in front of Teddy Two Gloves' intended receiver, shimmies and shakes his way down to the 3-yard line, where he then stiff arms Bridgewater, puts him out of the game, and goes in for the TD to give the Patriots the lead, which they never relinquished. Mm-hmm. And finally, in the power plays, Austin Eckler's 72-yard run on 2nd and 5, midway through the second quarter to put the Chargers up 14-3. He took the handoff, waited for his blockers, and then just absolutely explodes through the hole, leaving 5 Rams tacklers in his wake on his way to the end zone. There is an honorary mention this week, and that is for the Bucs punter, Jake Kamada, who saved a potential disaster of a punt. His snap is low and bobbles it. He manages to pick it up and takes off running left, as he's never going to get his punt away. As the Panthers close in at the 50, he launches a little grubber kick that gets downed at the 2 instead of giving the Panthers great field position, which was just an absolutely awesome play to watch. But why isn't this in the power plays, you may ask? And that's because there was a flag and they had to come back and do it all again. So it doesn't get in the face. But with a punter making a power play, it was worth the mention.
Yeah. But at the same time, sorry, on that one, if he hadn't have ran off and made the punt down, it would have been, if it had been downed at the 50 or wherever it was, whoever they were playing, the opposition would have declined the penalty and they would have got possession half. So it's still a power play.
It's
absolutely
still a power play.
Well, if you just fallen on it,
yeah, they would decline. They would have declined the play. I can't even remember what the penalty was.
A legal man downfield or something, wasn't it? It was something rubbish. And then hat-trick corner, Mike Evans, as we've already mentioned, with his 200 plus and 3 touchdowns. So quite a few hat-tricks this season, to be honest.
Yeah.
He seemed to be doing one of those every other week. So well done to those players. And that's the power plays for week 17.
You'll have to forgive me, because when you mentioned Everton were getting battered, I went and looked at the football scores and you weren't wrong. So I missed 1 or 2 in the middle. Did you mention the Aiden Hutchinson interception?
Yes.
You did.
Yes, we did Aiden Hutchinson's
interception. I just wanted to double check, because that's my favourite play of the week. Jim, you don't have to sound so just annoyed and disparaging all the time.
I said it in the review. He's in the power play. Stop looking at football scores. Right, we're going to move on to the week 17 wrong-uns. Okay, so this week, for week 17, we had Josh, who is a Giants fan. Josh, thank you very much for coming on and doing the picks for us last week. Only 2 games that we all got wrong. We all thought the Eagles would beat the Saints, and we all thought the Commanders would beat the Browns. So unfortunately, no points for us on those 2. Then we got the only game that 3 of us got wrong, and that was the Vikings beating the Packers. So me, Dave, and Josh thought that the Packers would lose. Punk, you picked the Packers, and you get the point for that. A couple of 2x2s. So Dave and Josh picked the Ravens to beat the Steelers. You're wrong. Punk and Dave picked the Jets to beat the Seahawks. So you 2 are wrong there. And now just the singles. So Josh went for the Cardinals to get the Falcons. That didn't come off. I thought the Panthers would beat the Buccaneers. I was wrong. And Punk thought that the Rams would beat the Chargers. So no points for you there, Punk. How that works out is that it was only a 15-game slate. Dave and Josh went 10-5. Punk and me went 11-4. So still pretty decent. And it means that I am now back on top of the Pod versus the People competition chart with 160, Dave's 159, Punk 158, and the People 146. So, those are the standings.
Good. Going into the last week and 1
into the last week.
Right, this is where we go big.
This is where we go big.
Yeah. Before let's go into the week 18 picks then, shall we? We normally at this point would bring on someone to come and do the picks for us. We don't have anyone to come on this week, boys. What we have instead is a Royal Rumble of 10 pickers against us in the picks. So, without further ado, I'm going to have to say that the people that have stepped forward are, of course, Finn as our other presenter, and old head Philly Sai has come in with some picks.
Ooh.
So people that have been with us for a long time, Philly Sai came back in to do the picks for us this week. So thank you very much to those two. Then we have got a smorgasbord of different fan bases. We have, of course, got 2 Giants fans. Couldn't get only one in there. So we've got Will, who's a Jags fan. We've got Connor and Josh. Josh is back straight away as 2 Giants fans. Commander Paul obviously had to come in, so as a Washington boy. Nick, the Jet, is coming in there from the Gangrene podcast. So thank you very much, Nick, for doing the picks there. Kimmy, the Raider, who we all love, and Chiefs Mike, who none of you guys love, but I quite like. He's come back in to do that. And Graham, who's a Packers fan as well, has come back to do the picks after doing them earlier on in the season. So we have got 10 lots of picks. I've got them all here in front of me. There are favourites, obviously, so I'll tell you who's gone with the underdog in these picks. But when they go through, we're going to start with Saturday, and it's been confirmed all of the game slots for the time being. The first one on Saturday is the Chiefs at the Raiders. So, Punk, you're going to have to go first on all of these, mate. Who are you going for in this game?
I can go.
That's
I'll
fine.
go against him and tell you who I'm picking. I'll do them live.
Yeah,
as
that's
we
fine.
speak as well.
Look, it's really not difficult. Pat Mahomes has never lost away from Arrowhead against a divisional opponent, so you
No.
pick the Chiefs. Job done. Especially against that Raiders defense.
I concur 100%.
I can tell you that only one person has picked the Raiders in this, and
Kimmy.
that was Graham. No, it was Graham. Not even Kimmy picked
Even
the Raiders
Kimmy
to win this.
Oh my goodness.
No, she's being
I'm
sensible.
disappointed, Kimmy.
Who knows? Maybe, I don't know, maybe she thinks the Chiefs are going to just rest some players, but they can't because they're going for the locking up the number 1 seed. So
they need their seed.
The other game on Saturday is at 1:15 in the morning, if you fancy it. It's the Tennessee Titans at the Jacksonville Jaguars, winning in for the AFC South. Who are you going for, Dave?
Well, I have decided that I am not going to give my picks because all Jim has to do is listen back and match all of mine, and he will, by definition, win. But I'll tell you on this one, I think it's
not what I would do.
I think it's going to be the Titans. I would totally do that. I absolutely would do that.
I
Then the Titans win this game.
You have done that.
The Titans win this game. I think I did it once in a predictions league that we had many years ago. No, I think the Titans will win because Derrick Henry runs against the Jaguars in kilometers. I think the Titans win.
The Jags are the form team. Let's be honest here.
Absolutely.
Travis Etienne's putting yards in and touchdowns in. Trevor Lawrence is playing the best we've seen him since he came into the NFL. The Titans have rested their players. This is it. It really is kind of pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and do you want to actually get in the playoffs or not? I agree. I think Derrick Henry is mad for this game, and I think the Titans win. Titans win. Titans go to the playoffs. I win my money, and the Jags, get a pat on the back for being fairly decent this season. But
that's why you're betting on them. It's for your bet. It's not. It's
damn right I am.
Nothing to do with the prediction.
And you're picking them, so the Jags finish second.
No, I'm not. I'm picking them because I think the Titans win.
They've needed to win one game in the last 6 weeks, and they've lost them all. Come on, seriously.
Only one.
Imagine needing one game and you finish 0-7 to finish off the season. That's a Panthers-esque collapse, isn't it?
And they were the number 1 seed last season.
Only one person has agreed with you on this one, so you are against the grain. Only our favourite Jets fan Nick has gone with the Titans to beat the Jags.
Nick knows what he's talking about.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
I always like Nick.
Okay, so on to Sunday then, and we're going to start with the 6 p.m. slate. And the first one there is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, before I ask you for your prediction, just need to confirm to everyone that the Bucs are locked in the 6th seed. They cannot move no matter what they do, win, lose or draw. They are in the 6th seed of the playoffs. Falcons have no chance. So, Punk, who are you picking?
Bucs. Bucks second string beat Falcons first string in my eyes. So I'm going with the Bucks, especially if Mike Evans decides he does want to play, in which case, he's far too good to be covered by the Falcons defense. I'm going with the Bucks.
Why would they play Mike Evans?
Why wouldn't they?
They don't need to.
Yeah, but the thing everyone says about taking a week off, but not every team goes with that. Not every team wants their players taking a week off. They like to keep momentum. And the fact that the Bucks have been so absolutely rubbish this season, the fact they've just had a decent win to get in there, they might want to keep the momentum going. So I'm, at this moment in time, picking the Buccaneers.
If it was me, I'd open up the playbook, try a few things here, there, and everywhere, and see how they roll. I'm looking forward to seeing Mike Evans against AJ Terrell. The main issue is that the Falcons have Desmond Ridder. So, yeah, you go with the Bucks.
Yeah, the Riddler's not good.
No.
Okay, well, only 4 people have gone with the Falcons. Philly Cy, Commander Paul, Chiefs Mike, and Josh, the Giants fan, has gone for the Falcons. Everyone else has gone for the Bucks. Next one then, the New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. New England need to win this game to be in the playoffs. The Bills obviously still looking for the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Now, assuming this game still goes ahead, the Bills are going to be a massively emotional team. Mm-hmm. This is either going to help them or hinder them. From my experience, this will help them. It will galvanize them. It will give them something to rally around. And I think the Bills will absolutely decimate the Patriots like they did last season.
Let's not forget the Patriots also won a game against the Bills last season as well by playing tactical, run-the-ball football.
Yeah, in 50-mile-an-hour winds and all the rest of it. So
they do some Mac Jones in that game.
And let's just say we are talking about Buffalo. We are talking about Buffalo in January. I think you're right. It could go one of 2 ways, and it's a flip a coin as to which way it goes. Because all it takes is one player to have a bad moment in a key situation. All of a sudden, the game's undone. So this is a very, very difficult one to predict.
Well, only 2 people have gone for the Patriots: Commander Paul and Packer Graham. So most people think the Bills are going to see to that one. Then we've got the Minnesota Vikings. Well, they're in the playoffs, whether they should be or not, I don't know. They're at the Chicago Bears, who are not in the playoffs.
I have no idea.
They could still get the 1 seed.
The Vikings anymore. The Bears. Who could? The Vikings.
No, the Bears can still get the 1 seed in the playoffs. I thought you meant in the draft. Sorry, damn it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You lost me.
The Bears can still get the number 1 seed in the draft if Texans win and blah blah blah. You know,
it doesn't matter because the Bears aren't picking up a quarterback. So all they're going to do is
maybe.
No, they're not.
Maybe
they're not moving.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But anyway, the Vikings are going to win the game.
I mean, my only question is: has anyone put the Bears?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
2 people, okay. Commander Paul again, and Chiefs Mike have gone for the Bears. Everyone else has gone for the Vikings.
That's surprising.
I can see why you'd go for the Bears at home against the Vikings, but I think the Vikings want to get back on track, even if they're playing some backups. Rest Dalvin Cook. You still got Madison coming in, so I think they've got enough to beat Bears.
Okay. Then
the only thing I was going to say is I think the Vikings go all in on this game and try and get the number 1 seed to the home of the game. This is an advantage for them. I know they're playing a dome, but it's still an advantage for them.
The Houston Texans are at the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, the Texans need to lose this game so they get the number 1 pick in the draft. But who are we going for? Who can suck the most in this game?
I mean,
Texans will win.
They can both score 3 points. I'd like to think the Texans on an even playing field mid-season would win this game, but I think you're right. I think they will accidentally somehow find a way to lose it. So I've gone with the Colts.
Texans will win.
This is quite even in the people's picks here. So 6 people have gone for the Texans. Only 4 have gone for the Colts. That was Finn, Commander Paul, Nick the Jet, and Kimmy from the Raiders. So, 4 Colts picks there. Most have gone for the Texans just to be a bit too good. Not being bad. Then we've got the New York Jets out of the contention now, but they are away to the Miami Dolphins. They can obviously spoil the party for Miami. What are we picking, Punk?
If Teddy Bridgewater plays for the Dolphins, I would very much probably pick the Dolphins. I'm not sure Teddy Bridgewater is going to play for the Dolphins, and Skylar Thompson does not fill me with confidence. Having said that, Mike White and Zach Wilson do not fill me with confidence for the Jets either. So it really is a bit of a lottery, this one.
That's the most uncommittal thing you've ever said. I would very much most probably
sit on the fence with this one. However, I'm looking at the fact that the Dolphins are playing at home and that it will be nice and hot, and the Jets play at home in the cold. I'm going with the Dolphins to destroy the Steelers' hopes.
Not mine. I'd be very happy if that's how it ends up. Well, I can report that no one has picked the Jets. Not even Nick, the Jets fan, has picked the Jets. So it is a clean sweep for the people. They think the Dolphins will get that one done. We've then got the NFC South matchup, the Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. Both teams out of contention. Absolutely pointless game. Go.
Flip a coin.
Okay. It's a dead heat. That's 5-5. So Finn, Philly Cy, Will, the Jags fan, Chiefs Mike, and Packer Graham have gone for the Saints. But it's 50-50 from the people.
And it is a 50-50 game.
I still don't know who I'm picking in that game. It's the only one I'm not sure.
Interestingly, it's a 3.5-point spread. I'm not sure where they've got that from, to be honest.
No, I don't know where they've got that
for the Saints.
For the Saints.
Because they're a home team, that's it. But is 3.5 points for the Saints worth home? It doesn't feel like it.
No.
Not anymore. Let's do the AFC North matchup then. The Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh obviously still have a chance to get into the playoffs.
Steelers are playing for something. Yeah, Steelers are playing for something, and Deshaun Watson is, completing 7 passes.
Garbage.
Micah Fitzpatrick. I mean, he might well be in my touchdown scorers because I'd
love that. That'd be
nice.
Yeah,
that would be nice. Punk, you also going
Steelers win. Yeah, Steelers win. You've still got something to play for, even though the Dolphins are going to beat you out of it. Do it for Tomlin. It's all that jazz.
One person has decided to be funny and pick the Browns.
Is it Philly Cy?
Sorry?
Is it Philly Cy?
It wasn't Philly Cy. He actually blew me a kiss when he said the Steelers. This was Kimmy who decided to pick the Browns. So she's on an island, a brown island. Good luck. Now we're going to start the 9:25 slate of games. So that was the 6 p.m. not done. The first one, AFC West, the Chargers at the Broncos.
Do you know what? Forget about the fact it's the Broncos. I know we suck and yada yada yada. It's the Chargers on the last game of the season. I think I'm right in saying the last time the Chargers won on the last game of the season was in 1931, I believe. And that was against the Houston.
I don't think the Chargers were even in existence.
They probably were. Complete nonsense.
However, you are to a degree right. It is the Chargers in the last game of the season, and it's the Chargers way at Mile High.
Really resting some players as well because they're in.
Yeah, they're already in. They're not going to. They've got nothing really to play for. They can't improve their seeding. So, for me, Broncos home win.
Oh. There's only one person that picked the Broncos in this game, and that was Chiefs Mike. So it's you and him, Punk.
He's a closet Broncos fan, that's why.
See, I say AFC Westers. We know this division.
He did just say resting everyone, basically. So now we've got NFC East, the Giants at the Eagles. The Giants are locked into the 4th seed. So just like the Bucks, they cannot move, win, lose, or draw. Which leads people to believe that they might be resting some players, including Saquon and Daniel Jones, blah, blah, blah. And the Eagles obviously need this win to help potentially get the number 1 seed, or at least, not lose it. So who are we going for?
Eagles are a 14-point favourite. Can you believe that?
That is interesting.
Yeah.
That is outrageous.
Yeah, but who's the Giants quarterback?
Absolutely outrageous.
I mean, if I'm betting, then I'm taking the Giants plus 14. I'll be brutally honest. As I'm not betting and I'm just picking the game, I'm taking the Eagles because they desperately want this number 1 seed. They've had 2 chances already, so 3rd time lucky. I also do believe that the Giants will rest Dan Jones and they will rest Saquon Barkley just because they cannot afford to go in the playoffs without him.
I'm going to make your pick.
Is?
I was going to say I'm going to make your pick a little bit harder. The backup is Tyrod Taylor.
Makes no difference. Why does that make it?
That makes it easier to me.
Better than Daniel Jones.
Well, you obviously need to go and learn to watch quarterbacks properly because that's just a ridiculous thing to say.
He is better than Daniel Jones.
He's definitely not better.
Yes. I don't know which way to side. I'd probably go with the Eagles purely because they've got something to play for.
Two people have gone for the Giants, Commander Paul and Kimmy. So everyone else has gone for the Eagles to finish that one off. The Cardinals are at the 49ers.
49ers still looking possibly to steal that number one seed.
Yeah.
And it's the Cardinals. I mean, come on.
I mean, no one's
49ers third string would probably beat the Cardinals.
I know I've said this before, but no one's picked the Cardinals, right? Like, no one. This has to be a clean sweep.
It is a clean sweep. Yeah, no one has picked the Cardinals.
I was going to say, there's no. If anyone's picked the Cardinals, they are trolling you big time.
Well, in me, I don't care, but they still have to play their starters to potentially get the number one seed. So it's important still for the 49ers. Next up, the LA Rams are at the Seahawks. Seahawks obviously still have a path into the playoffs if they win this game.
The Rams I'll go with the Seahawks. I'm still backing the Seahawks to maybe sneak into those playoffs. Who knows? I can't remember what their path is exactly, but at home the Seahawks are quite good. Gino, they score points. They're not too bad. Honestly, I think the Rams just need to put their flip-flops on and spend some time in Venice Beach or something and just chill out and come back next year.
Yeah. So two people have gone for the Rams. Finn, who's a Seahawks fan because he's obviously doing that reverse Uno thing. And Josh, the Giants fan, has gone
learning from the master.
Yeah. The last game at 9:25 is the Dallas Cowboys at the Washington Commanders. Now, obviously, the Commanders are out of contention now, but it's the Dallas Cowboys who desperately want to try and get that number one seed. Do the Commanders?
Well, they can still win the NFC East as well. If in theory, if the Eagles lose and the Cowboys win, they win the NFC East as well as the number one.
So there's a lot of marbles on the table here.
There are marbles.
The Commanders do not like the Cowboys very much, I've heard.
Now, it is one of those divisional rivalries where things can get a little heated at times.
Yep.
My question mainly would be who's playing quarterback for the Commanders? Because if it's Carson Wentz, then they've got no chance at all.
I'm not sure they've announced the starter yet.
It doesn't matter. Cowboys are winning this regardless of who starts at quarterback. So, quite easy for me, Cowboys.
So Riverboat Run was asked who's going to be starting, and he simply replied, "We'll see."
Yeah. So that means it'll be Taylor Heineke, and it won't make any difference because the Cowboys are going to win anyway.
One person has picked the Commanders, and it was Packer Graham that decided that the Commanders got a shot at the upset.
Not Commander Paul.
Not Commander Paul.
Oh, wow.
No.
Everyone's picking against their own teams this week, have you noticed?
Yeah, still doing it. The late game on Sunday at 1:20 in the morning for us in the UK, the Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. It's a win and in both teams. Who's getting it, Punk?
Well, I mean, this is one of those games, isn't it, where you've got the high-powered passing offense versus the running game and defense, and who knows who wins it? Well, I know who wins it, but it's in the frozen tundra. It's not in a dome. So, defense wins championships, Packers win, move forward into the playoffs.
That's a shame.
It is a shame, and it's quite
what's going to happen.
Lions,
that's what he thinks.
The Lions have got so close to doing it, but those earlier losses in the season where they were scoring 0 points, it's just a step too far. Although they have made great progress, and I think seriously need to look at them for next season when they build upon what they've done this season.
Lions are going to win 27-24.
They've just been to the future.
They're not. But,
Mark my words. This time next week, you'll be saying, "How does he do it? How does he do it?"
I'm
Two-
pretty certain I won't.
Two people have picked the Lions. One of them was Finn, and the other one was Kimmy. Everyone else has gone for the Packers to beat the Rebels there of the Lions. There is one game that's not been scheduled yet. It's a Week 18 game of the Ravens at the Bengals. Just for fun, Punk, because I assume we're going to play it at some point. Who are we picking for that game?
For that game, in theory, the Bengals will still be alive looking at number one seeds as well.
Yes.
They're still in that fight, depending on what happens. So for me, and also it's a divisional game, any time you have a divisional game, you don't like losing. I think the Bengals win this, especially if Huntley's at quarterback for the Ravens. He's not going to keep up with Burrow and co. So, yeah, Bengals for me winning at home.
I guess we have to look into it because as the Chiefs would have played on the Saturday, they might have already sewn up the number one seed in the AFC. And then as the Bengals have already won the division in the AFC North, they may bench a lot of starters.
It's possible. It's possible.
We just don't know what's happening with that team right now. They would have been just as effective as the Bills. It happened in their stadium, So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that, but no one has picked the Ravens to beat the Bengals. So that's a clean sweep. All 10 thought that the Bengals were better than the Ravens, and then they are. So
that's probably the biggest smile you've had this entire, to be honest.
This entire season.
Yeah. They'd have the same amount of wins if the Ravens won, but the Ravens got more losses. Something else. That's because of the extra game. There we go. So those are the picks, and yeah, just have to go and see what we see. Like I said, we're not sure what's happening with the Ravens-Bengals game, but they did at least schedule in the Bills-Patriots for 6:00 on Sunday. So I don't know.
Whatever happens will happen.
Yeah. If it happens,
more
then we
will
know
come out during the week. So
yeah. We're just a bit too early on that one. We are running the Podverse the People contest with playactionpools.com. In our opinion, the best office sports pool hosting platform. It's incredibly easy to enter and track your picks each week. Any issues that happened were down to us, not the app. If you ever want to use Play Action Pools to show off your skills in American football or even basketball, then don't forget to use our discount code TFD for 10% off and join in the fun. Check them out at playactionpools.com. That's playactionpools.com. And with that, we have one more thing to do, guys, before we leave, and that is the touchdown scorers for week 18.
Indeed. Last week was
didn't go too well last week.
I got one.
Congratulations, Dave.
You got one. Well done, Dave.
What did you get, Jim?
Well, I almost got one.
You almost got one.
Yeah, I was very close to getting one, but didn't happen. So
I went rogue, and of my two sensible picks, I got a 50%. So I'll take that. I'm happy with that.
Khalif Raymond is definitely a sensible pick.
I've gone rogue again this week.
Okay.
So the final week of the season, we normally see people coming in who we don't necessarily see for the rest of the season. So you do get a few rogue ones. So I've gone a little bit rogue in total. I'm going to go with my most sensible pick first. So Zonovan Knight, Jets against Miami. So Zonovan Knight is, if anyone who doesn't know, he's a running back. I believe he's a rookie. I can't remember where he was drafted, or even if he was drafted. I can't remember if he was undrafted. But he's getting a lot of touches now. He's been being built in more to the run game. A few receptions thrown in there as well. I'm just a huge fan of his. I think he's shifty. I think he's got a little bit of the Tariq Cohen about him.
He was not drafted, by the way.
He was undrafted. I mean, I love an undrafted running back. So it always puts a little chip on their shoulders. I don't think he's got too many touchdowns this season. He's not massive in terms of chunk yards either. He's just a guy who really catches the eye, and I'm a massive fan of his. So yeah, Jets against Miami's on of a night running back.
One touchdown this season.
One more than I thought he had.
NC State.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go, Punk, for Kenneth Walker, the third. I've got to go back to my my pick for offensive rookie of the year. He got injured in the Week 13 game against the Rams, but he's back now. Last two games, he's got over 100. He's got over 20 carries, over 100 yards in each as well. So I think that Kenneth Walker, with his power plays galore, will actually punch through that very, very weak Rams defense because they need to win. So they're going to play him.
I think you're probably right.
I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, it's one down.
Zonovan Knight was my most sensible pick, the least rogue out of all of them. Next one, you're going to like, Jim. Jaylen Warren, Steelers against the Browns. Now,
yes,
I know you know who this is, but for everyone else, so he's a backup running back. Again, he's a rookie. I can't remember where. I think he might even be undrafted again. I've gone for 2 undrafted running backs as my picks, but 40% of all of his snaps have come in the past 3 games. He's featured in the run game at some point in 14 of the 17 games, so he is being built into the play. He's only scored 1 touchdown this season, but does have a few receiving yards as well.
Yeah, 98 yards in the Ravens game.
Yep, and he's doing it looking good as well. He's a guy that catches the eye. Bit of a showboat player in terms of he will break the first tackle and it will be a big play. It hasn't caught the headlines because he hasn't got a huge amount of touchdowns. But this week, I'm picking him to have his breakout week as it's the last game of the season. I think you'll be massively up against the Browns, and I think you'll take out Najee Harris because you know how much you need him for the playoffs, and you'll bring in Jaylen Warren.
We're not in the playoffs, Dave. And so that's why
we're not making the playoffs.
You
Dave.
will
The
be.
Dolphins are making the playoffs.
Talking about, we've definitely got a chance of making the playoffs. No, the reason, which is why I've picked Najee Harris as my second pick.
Have you really?
I have actually picked, yeah, I have. Haven't picked him all year, but he was properly on it against the Ravens. 22 carries, and they'll need him against the Browns. He had 123 scrimmage yards against the Ravens, so more than Jaylen Warren. They're a 1-2 punch. Hope they both score touchdowns. But I just think if it's that first and second and goal, they'll go to Najee first.
Yes, they will. I agree.
So I think he's just got the better chance of getting one in. So that's why I went for Najee Harris.
I agree as well. If Jaylen Warren scores, his run probably starts outside of the red zone. In all honesty.
Yeah, just inside. They do like using him. He is very good. And he's very good at third down pass protection.
Jaylen Warren scores, pigs will fly, cats and dogs will be living together.
He's a good back. Like genuinely,
he's very
good back. Yeah.
Not saying he isn't.
I picked the number 1 back because we can't rest him because we're not in, and so we need to.
Exactly.
We need to actually beat the Browns, so he'll play. That's my second pick.
No doubt. So my third pick, I am picking a player who plays in a position that none of us have picked so far this season to be a touchdown scorer.
Okay,
like safety or something.
Fullback.
Picking a fullback. I am picking Kyle Juszczyk, 49ers against the Cardinals. Cardinals front line suck. Absolutely sucks. And he's had either a run or a reception in 11 of the 17 games this season. Now, I don't know if he's played all 17.
He hasn't, I don't think.
He has had a reception in 11 games this season. Only 1 touchdown. However, anyone who watches 49ers games will know he's quite often involved. Sometimes both sides of the ball. I've seen him play defense as well. I mean, actually plays like a random, what would you call it, nickel linebacker almost. But yeah, so Kyle Juszczyk to round out my rogue picks. It doesn't get more rogue than that. Come on.
Thanks for coming, Dave.
He's played 15 games, actually. I thought he missed at least 1, obviously. But
11 of 15 games, he's had a run or reception then. So he's involved in the playbook. Yeah, I wanted to go really.
Yeah, he always has been, but he doesn't score many touchdowns. He just clears the path.
Yeah, I wanted to go really rogue this week.
I mean, in theory, Christian McCaffrey's taken half of his touchdowns away because he keeps getting in the end zone himself.
Yep. No, absolutely. I could have picked Christian McCaffrey. I could have picked Najee Harris. I opted to go for their backups.
You opted not to play the game.
If I put a quid on these 3, on Zonovan Knight, Jaylen Warren, and Kyle Juszczyk, dude, I'm winning the Euro Millions. I really am.
I should really say Derrick Henry now, right? Because you just left the door wide open for me to say it.
You should say Derrick Henry.
Go for it.
I had a different name here. That was my kind of out there pick.
Go for the different name then. I mean, you can mention the other name and go for Derrick Henry if you want to.
I'll put Derrick Henry because I want to win. All right.
Okay. You will win.
My honourable mention, and I was going to choose him, was Justin Fields. So the Bears have nothing to play for but hurting the Vikings. That should be enough for Fields to gash one of the softest defenses in the league. He had 132 yards rushing against the Lions last week. So if they're going to score, I think they might come off a Justin Fields scramble and run 60-odd yards, that type play.
That's not as out there as you think it is, to be honest.
No. It's not.
He's done it a few times this season.
He's had 8 touchdowns. He had more than some running backs, like feature running backs.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Jonathan Taylor's had 2, I think, this season, or 4 total. Passing or receiving.
He's been carrying more injuries than he has footballs.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what we'll do then.
That's pretty decent stats though for a quarterback.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll make it a 4 this week because we're going to pick Jim's. We're not picking Dave's. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So we'll make it a 4 just to bump the odds. Hang on. So we'll go Ken Walker, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'll have a 4th as well then. Because we're having a bonus one because it's the last one. I'm having Minka Fitzpatrick. He's my 4th.
There you go.
He's giving 4th. And I'm going to get 0-4 this week, but I'm going to look fantastic doing it.
We're putting 50p on it, even if, you know.
Oh, I'm putting £1 on it. If I put Minka Fitzpatrick on that, name your price. Do you know what? If I do that, I'm going to buy the Dallas Cowboys. That's how much money I will win.
That's where he mistypes and puts £100 on it instead of £1.
Fine. Do you know what? I'll buy the Raiders, then I'll move you to Mexico City and close you down. That's what I'll do.
We'll play just as well in Mexico as we do anywhere else.
You'll have to bring Tom Brady across then, won't you? Okay. So
don't want Tom Brady.
You're going to get him.
Listen, it's in the stars. Tom Brady is a Raider. Admit it.
Do not want Tom Brady.
You're currently playing Tom Brady's ex-backup, so you might as well.
I don't care. I don't want Tom Brady. Tom Brady needs to retire at the end of this season and be done with it.
He is. He's going to go to the Raiders.
Yeah, exactly. That's where everyone's supposed to retire.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
You think Derek Carr doesn't move much? You wait till you get Brady.
No, it's not happening.
McDaniels has paved the way for him.
We are not
taking
Brady. We are not having Brady.
Found a nerve, Dave. We're going to have to push on this nerve for the next few weeks. But that's it.
I think we need a Patreon special on are the Raiders going to get Tom Brady?
Yeah, how much are they going to go in for Tom Brady in the offseason?
I can guarantee they won't.
A 5-year, $230 million deal. All
fully guaranteed. And on that note,
it's time to end, but thank you so much, guys, for sticking with it despite the downer at the start of this episode. Obviously had to cover it, but yeah, if you want to get in contact, please get in contact on Twitter at Final Down NFL, at Punk_Raider, and at Denver Dave 30 on Twitter. Check us out at thefinaldown.com for all of our stuff on there. Dave,
let's not forget Punk's new Twitter handle. I want Tom Brady. Just remember that. So yeah, catch him up there.
Patreon.com/finaldown, and we're on Spotify as well now through Anchor. So if you do listen to podcasts on Anchor, you can get us on there as well. Until next week, when we're going to be talking about the playoffs, I've been Jim, that's been Punk Raider, that's been Never Dave. Thank you very much for listening.